Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to be going through some more petrified articles from the 1800s. These are fascinating to me, and the last one I think is going to be pretty mind-blowing. But here's the first one. It's from 1860, A Wonder of the World, Monster Petrified Trees at Blackrock. Captain J. E. Stevens, who conducted a silver prospecting expedition from Marysville to the Blackrock country a short time before the Washoe Indian outbreak, informs the Marysville Democrat of an extraordinary discovery which the expedition made of a petrified tree. Says that journal, the tree is lying in a desolate region about 60 miles north of Blackrock and near what is called High Rock Canyon. It lay across several small gulches and was partly buried in the soil. Its length, so far as measured, the top being deep underground, was 666 feet. That's a crazy number. And the general opinion of the company, looking at it, was that it was from 40 to 60 feet in diameter. Enormous tree. Captain Stevens thinks it is of the same species as the trees of Mariposa. I'll have to look that up. Fragments of other trees of the same kind but smaller are visible here and there, stumps and butts of 30 feet length, all petrified. So basically it's a petrified forest. And it is more than probable that a little excavation would discover a vast primeval forest there buried. This tree lies exactly where it fell centuries ago, for there are the upturned roots in just the position they would most naturally be, and the prone trunk bears no evidence of having been disturbed. It seems strange that the remains of a great forest should thus be found in a country now wholly destitute of any sort of living growth whatsoever except sagebrush and greasewood for hundreds of miles around. A specimen of the petrification may be seen at the office of Dr. Thomson, taken from the tree at a distance of 200 feet from the base. It is only a half-inch thick, but contains the marks of 6 years' growth. Since penning the above, our friend Champlin, a member of Captain Stevens' company, has called on us and shown us a specimen of the big tree alluded to. It is very curious to look at. The petrification in the specimen before us plainly indicates the part of the tree from which it was taken, it being the sap and the rings next to it. He showed us also a petrification of fat pine, which he struck from a petrified stump in the same vicinity. It looks so natural that you can almost fancy that you can smell the resin when you put your nose to it. It is certainly a marvelous preservation, a material record as durable as time. In the same place, the company found the shin bone of a man petrified and the upper jaw of a grizzly, but twice as large as the jaw of any grizzly ever seen in modern times. In the Territorial Enterprise, Carson City, of the 9th June, we find the following on the same subject. Messrs. Totman and Chapman, who were with the Stevens party, exploring the country from Honey Lake to Blackrock, arrived in Virginia City on the 1st of June. An express from Honey Lake reached there, 30 miles north of Blackrock, on the 24th of May, apprising the people of the battle at Pyramid Lake. A party of 30 men being north and unapprised of danger, Stevens and Totman went out to recall them. While on the expedition, they found a most remarkable petrification in the case of a mammoth tree. The tree was partly embedded in the ground and was broken in sections by the fall. They estimated the tree to be 40 feet in diameter and from 500 to 700 feet in height. The petrification was perfect, roots and all portions of the tree having been turned to stone. A few miles from there, they found a pitch pine stump petrified so perfect that the pitch preserved all its crystalline beauty. They also found the shin bone of a man, the jaw of a grizzly bear, and various other petrifications in that region. The return party, composed of 32 men, all make the same statements, and incredible as it may seem, we are inclined to credit them. So yeah, we have Blackrock appearing with this giant tree out in the middle of nowhere. Has anybody been there? Anybody seen it? All right, let's see. This one's 1845. And this is the petrified body. We mentioned on Saturday, having the authority of the Montreal Gazette, that the so-called petrified body exhumed at Berthier, Canada East, had been scientifically examined and found to be, as we supposed from the first, only the curious substance known as adipocere. But a writer in the Quebec Mercury denies this and affirms that the change has been to actual positive stone. We copy his note. To the editor of the Quebec Mercury. Sir, it is singular to the discovery of the petrified corpse in the churchyard of this village, although made, I believe, in September last, did not until lately attract public attention. It does not appear that even now it has roused the curiosity of the scientific, although it is perhaps the greatest natural wonder of its kind. Passing through Berthier on the 21st of March, I paid a visit to the gentleman in whose house it is deposited, and received from him every civility and explanation that time would allow. The petrification, for such I must term it, is kept in a large chest made for the purpose in a lower room of the house under lock and key. On removing a fair linen cloth, one of the most extraordinary sights presents itself that probably ever came under notice. By a rare process of nature, a body committed to earth in the ordinary way some 20 years since, instead of crumbling into original dust, has become the petrified image of the human form, which once had being, life, and motion. The body, which in life was composed of both solid and empty parts, is now entirely solid, hard, and seems to be as completely stone as if it was quarried by mortal hand. It has the appearance of one of those ancient statues, abraded by time and exposure, which are seen in niches on the outside of cathedrals in Europe. In color it is dark gray or nearly black. The nose and mouth are destroyed, and one of the feet, I think, was gone. The trunk was perfect. Where the foot is broken, it has almost every appearance of mutilated stone. The small running stream, doubtless containing earthly particles, over which the coffin is supposed to have been originally deposited in the soil, presented, as I was informed, a bubbling spring, the exit of which was not larger than the palm of a hand. On either side 2 bodies have been interred about the time of the burial of the one in question. All these have entirely disappeared, a fact that shows that the influence of the petrifying spring or lapidific fluid did not extend beyond a narrow vein of the breadth or space occupied by the body which had suffered so extraordinary a change. I perceive that a New York editor is rather incredulous of this being a petrification, and suggests that it may be adipocere. To its being the latter, the description given above, if correct, will establish a negative. The body was exhumed in September last, and is still as solid as when discovered. At all events, the coffin could not be adipocere, and was in fact described to also be stone. The opening of the navigation will soon make Berthier easy of access, and it is to be hoped, for the sake of science, that someone skilled to decide on the composition of this supposed petrification will proceed to a close examination and test, given his report to the world. Perhaps the stream will be found impregnated with salt or iron. One object, however, in my writing you this letter is to inquire if you have ever heard, or have any means of ascertaining, that the venerable gentleman, quote, "the oldest inhabitant," unquote, that when the foundations of the old fortifications of Quebec were dug up, a petrified savage was found among the last beds which the workmen proceeded to excavate. His quiver and arrows were still well preserved, but where the story is to be found in detail, I have no means of discovering. So that's from Canada, 1800s. They found the foundations of an old city with a petrified body. And then they have this guy, somebody saying it's some kind of stone called adipocur. But where is Mud Fossil University when you need them? Okay, here's 1890. This one is super cool. Okay, petrified pigs. They stand in a field of petrified corn. Marvelous effect of the passage of a green cloud. A strange story that is amply vouched for. Now, I'm thinking this could be plasma. All right, the people in the eastern portion of Claiborne County, Tennessee, are excited over a remarkable occurrence which took place there on Sunday evening last. It is one of the most marvelous occurrences ever heard of, and it will prove to be a problem over which scientific minds may wrestle for some time to come. Edgar Ramsay is a farmer who lives 5 miles from Lickskillet. Wow, that's a southern name for a city. He arrived in Middlesbrough yesterday afternoon. The story he told would not find believers at first, but since then it has been proven that he has told nothing but the truth. His statement is as follows. Last Sunday afternoon, I noticed what appeared to be a large green-looking cloud coming from a westerly direction toward my house. It was a long distance off, and the rain was falling heavily. Shortly afterward it became very cold. In fact, so cold that I went indoors, lit a big fire, and put on my big heavy coat. When I came out again, the big green cloud was almost over the house, and the air was as cold as on a winter day. I watched the cloud for a few minutes, and then hail commenced falling, and I was forced to go indoors again. Inside of half an hour it became as dark as night, and I never felt so funny and heavy in all my life before. The wind hollowed, and the hail fell in stones as big as eggs. All this lasted 20 minutes, and then the sky cleared up, and I felt more like myself again. An hour later I was sitting with my wife near the fire when I heard the galloping of a horse coming at full speed, and when I went out to see who it was, there stood Jake Warren, a neighbor farmer who lives about 1.25 miles from me. He was as pale as a ghost and was trembling all over. It took him over 10 minutes to commence to tell me what he had to say, and as he was talking I thought he was crazy. B stated He stated that a big green cloud had come over his place, and that something which looked like balls of fire had fallen around his house. He had 5 acres of corn growing in a field next to the house. After the storm had cleared away, he went to see what damage had been done. He saw that some corn had been blown down, and entering the field he found every stalk had been turned to stone. There were 2 fine hogs in the field, and they too were petrified, and standing there as if cut out of solid rock. Myself and my wife thought the man was raving mad, but induced him to remain over till morning, when we promised to visit his place with him. That we did, and what we saw will be remembered so long as we both live. There was the corn blown down, but every stalk of it was petrified. It was not as hard as granite, but appeared to be more like soft stone. I took my knife and cut it, and it became powder. The ears were very hard, and they could not be broken with the hand. The leaves were brittle, and if one struck them they would break like glass. The hogs were there too, looking natural enough, but they too were as hard as stone. Yesterday afternoon, George E. Henry of this city, John Rogers, Captain John B. Hull, ex-deputy marshal, and several others rode over the mountains into Tennessee to see for themselves if the things were really there as represented. Captain Hull, ex-United States Deputy Marshal, makes the following statement. We went over this morning. I doubted the story on starting, but thought I'd try it anyhow. We found Warren's farm about 7 miles from the Gap, and there, sure enough, was the cornfield completely petrified. The stalks were somewhat blown down, but they seemed completely turned to stone. The two hogs were there also, and they looked like they were carved out of rock. It was the strangest sight I ever saw, and I can't begin to describe the thing. There were a number of men guarding the field with Winchester rifles, and they wouldn't let us go into it. They only let us go to the fence. We could touch some of the corn stalks and could see the hogs, but the men refused positively to let us go any farther than the fence. The men wouldn't say why they would not let people go into the field, but I presume they were afraid people would break the corn stalks to pieces. There was quite a crowd there looking at the thing, and everyone was thoroughly dumbfounded at what they saw. This statement is vouched for by a number of others, and naturally there is considerable excitement. Every horse in the valley has been engaged for the next several days by parties who intend to visit the place. So, wow, that's in the 1890s. Some kind of weird plasma storm came through. That was in Middlesboro, Tennessee, 5 miles from Lickskillet. So, I don't know. What do you think the green cloud could be? Some kind of plasma? I mean, there's a lot of plasma talk going around now on the internet. And yeah, I wonder what else is out there. All right, well, let me know your thoughts, and I appreciate you stopping by today. And please like, share, and subscribe to help me get these articles out before they're lost in time. All right, thank you, and have a great day.